Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. This is Lily Dale Radio, and we are live on Blog Talk Radio as well as on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Colleen Vanderzijden, and we are doing the show tonight called Embracing Your Essence, and it is one of Lily Dale Radio's shows where we are live on Blog Talk as well as on Facebook Live. As you're joining in, just say hello. Partially so I know somebody's listening and my computer is working like it should, but also because it's fun to see who's here and where you're from, all of those details. So feel free to log in and say those things. That'll be great. Tonight we are talking about spiritual acceleration. We are going to be talking about how to access and be one with the spiritual flow, which will accelerate your spiritual growth. And when you're in the flow, your life challenges are easier to navigate. And instead of struggling, fighting against the current, we move with the flow. And so we are going to be talking about that tonight. Have all sorts of other things I'm going to talk about as well. But there we are. So hi, Denise. Hi, nice to see you. And Mick and Kylie and Ashley and Ray and Annette. And yes, I am feeling better. The last time I talked to you guys was I had COVID and I didn't know it yet. So that was... Well, I missed 2 shows, so 3 weeks ago. So I had COVID, didn't know it. A couple days later, figured it out, and here we are. I'm finally better and happy to be back with you now. It was, not to get into the details of things or to politicize anything. No comments on anything about this. It was a really bad cold for me, but it just really drained my energy nicely. So anyway, I am very happy to be back with you today, and thank you so much for joining me. As I said, we are going to be talking about spiritual acceleration this evening. Before we get to that, of course, I do have some details as usual. LilydaleAssembly.org is where you will find out everything that's happening in Lilydale. Lilydale Assembly Incorporated is the official Facebook page, and I will mention workshops that are happening right away. We have some online workshops that are going to be happening very soon. This weekend, we have a suicide workshop on Saturday. That would be February 5th, and just in case you're watching it after February 5th, it's February 5th from 12:30 to 3:30 with Nancy Lombardo. She's going to be talking about suicide. At the same time, from 12:30 to 3:30, Neil Zepkowski is doing holistic nutrition with Edgar Casey information. That is also from 12:30 to 3:30 on Saturday, and you get information on Lilydale's official Facebook page, Lilydale Assembly Incorporated, or lilydaleassembly.org. Next week, there is a Discover Your Spirit Guides, animal spirit guides with Joanne Copley-Nigro, and there's also a health and healing with alternative therapies, again with Neil Zepkowski. So next week. So we have those things coming up. So you can follow Lilydale, of course, and from so many different ways. Hi, Robin. Hi, Diane. Hi, Lori. And of course, you can follow me if you have not yet. My page on Facebook is Colleen Vanderzijden, Medium and Intuitive Life Coach. And my website is ColleenVanderzijden.com. And here's something big if you didn't see yet. Look at this. This is my book. Woohoo. This is actually the unbound proof. So it's like, loose pages and stuff. It's the unbound proof. I approved it. It's good to go. We are now working on the ebook. And so it should be available ebook and paperback version in the next few weeks. And as you can see, it's called Courageously You. It's all about you being in your power and using magical mind games to get unstuck and reigniting your joy. So I'm so excited about that. As I have more details, like a link to buy it when it's actually officially published, I will let you know. So let's see, what else do we have to tell you? The Lilydale workshops for the summer, they're coming up. They should be posted on the website in the next 2 or 3 months. And then you can see what's happening and you can make your plans to come visit Lilydale. It's going to be a beautiful summer. So today we are talking, as I said, about spiritual acceleration. And sometimes it's really cool when I start talking about something like this, because I'll say to people, are you ready to accelerate your spiritual growth? And of course, everybody's like, yes, yes. And sometimes people think it's going to be this magical, go meditate in a cave for 30 days or something, or 6 months or something. But no, we're not going to talk about something like that. We're going to accelerate it by using our life situations. And we're going to learn more about ourselves that way. We're going to embrace that spiritual path and strengthen your divine connection. And the simplest and easiest way to accelerate your growth is to make a commitment to be in the spiritual flow with everything that happens in your life. Now, if you're like me, I know you're probably doing the same thing I did when I start thinking about my show topics and my ideas and stuff. And I'm like, exactly how do you get in the flow? Exactly what does that mean? How do we go about doing this? What's the benefit? Why do I want to? So we're going to talk about all of this. And the flow is kind of like when we're going downstream in a kayak or a raft or something. We float, we go with the energy of the water, working with the current. So we are going to talk about 7 ideas to help you access and be one with the flow. Because when you intentionally choose to play with these ideas I'm going to talk about, you will accelerate your spiritual growth. You absolutely will. Life will be easier. You won't feel so overwhelmed or out of control in the uncertainty. What's happening is you're back in your soul's power. And when you're back in your soul's power, you have that joyful life that I'm always talking about. So this is very exciting. When we are not in the flow, we might feel like we don't have a choice in how we respond to our problems or situations, okay? Sometimes it's easier to think about what it would be like if we're not in the flow rather than emphasizing too much about being in the flow, because when you're not in the flow, right? So we might feel like we don't have a choice in how we respond to our problems. Our automatic response to problems is to push back, rejecting and fighting our circumstances, right? That's what we do. We don't want them, so we push them away. We might become control freaks, trying to control everything around us so that we don't have to deal with the uncertainty. If we're working on our spiritual growth and we're not in the flow, what frequently happens is we grasp at rules, and we'll put those in quotes. We'll grasp at rules. We might think it's necessary to be a vegetarian or a non-drinker. We might believe that spiritual growth happens only if we meditate an hour or more every day. We might think we have to be a certain kind of person to be spiritual. I know I've talked to a lot of people in the course of my growth as a spiritual being after I woke up 20 whatever years ago. And frequently I'll come across people who are like, well, to be spiritual, I have to act like this. I have to do this. I have to believe these certain things. And that's not necessarily the case, okay? And we are going to talk about that a little bit tonight too. So in some ways, not being in the flow is like we're trying to swim upstream, right, against the current. We believe that path, whatever path we have in our minds, is the only way to get what we want. And we might be pushing against that flow, barely moving, and in all likelihood, actually getting knocked down and dragged away in the current there. We can get tired holding on to limiting, rigid beliefs that we think might be the only way forward. And sometimes that involves us thinking we have to force our way through obstacles, right? So many of us have been taught, try, keep trying, harder, harder, harder. What if I told you there's an easier way? And the easier way is to be in the flow. You don't have to force, you don't have to control, you don't have to push your way through the obstacles. When we get stuck feeling like life is out of control, things happen, so we get stuck there. So we struggle, and when we struggle, we start grasping at anything that we hope is going to help us. And that's when we start to feel lost, uncertain, stressed out. When you're in the flow because life feels easier, things move. When you're not in the flow, you're struggling. And when you're disconnected from that spiritual flow, that also means you're disconnected from your inner power. Right? Okay, I'm checking the comments before I continue on, because I'm going to talk about this much easier way to do this. Hello, everybody. So many people joining me tonight. Thank you for joining me. Yes. Mick is saying, I kind of feel like I'm going over the falls in a barrel these days. Yes, I can understand that. I've talked to one of my coaching groups about that, how it just seems like we're using the phrase, we want to jump out of our skin or we feel on edge. So hopefully some of the ideas I talk about tonight will help us when we're feeling a little bit discombobulated with life. So we're going to talk about this flow, how to get in it, these words that are going to help you. You have a choice in how you respond to your circumstances, right? Every situation can be used to strengthen and accelerate your spiritual connection. Every situation is an opportunity for you to practice getting into that flow. Now, for those of you who've been watching me for a while, I've been talking about the consciousness shift that has been happening for, a few years, but has really sped up the last couple of years. So we are currently going through this shift. And what we're doing in this shift is we are deciding how we personally want to move forward? Do we want to be living from our soul's light and love in the spiritual flow? When we're living from our soul's light and love, we are in that spiritual flow. Or we have a choice. Do we want to remain in a limiting human perspective, fixated on the negative, fixated on what's wrong in our lives, trapped in feelings of lack or unworthiness? We have a choice. So many of us don't believe we have a choice. We think life happens to us and then we respond. We react to it, right? But we do have a choice, even with our challenges and problems. Now, because we are in this consciousness shift, the advantage of it is that as we make a decision, if we decide we want to grow spiritually, we want to live from our soul's love and light, we want to be in that spiritual flow. When we make that decision, the divine energy and the universe will step in to help us. At this time, you may have noticed manifestation is easier and faster. You might have a passing thought, well, maybe I want to look for that book, or I have this passing thought, I want to do this, I want to do that. And all of a sudden, the opportunity appears right in front of you. We are in a time of high, easily manifesting, that's not a word, whatever we want. With a simple choice, we can easily and quickly get in that spiritual flow and change your life. If you feel like you're fighting against life, or you're trying to swim upstream, and you know what that feels like. We just get worn out and tired. You're struggling. It's time to make the decision. Do you want to turn around? You don't want to force. You want to move into the flow. Forcing is limited humanness. Okay, this is what we've learned as humans over time. Force your way through, power through, keep going no matter what. But flow, being in the spiritual flow, that is spirit. That is divine. It is accessible to all of us. It is absolutely accessible to all of us. I'm preaching mode tonight for you guys. So let's use that analogy of the river symbolizing the flow, because we all understand that. The river, the water, is like life. It has its own energy. And we can't personally control where it goes. We can't necessarily change its path. But we can choose to go with the flow. You know, lots of times we say people, just go with the flow, go with the flow. And we kind of do it in a flippant way, stop stressing, stop worrying. But truly, if we think about it, if we go with the flow, our lives are much easier. We're not resisting our circumstances. We're not upset, stressed out, worried, and fear. We're not in those. So when we're in the flow, we're in the current. And we allow that current and the power to guide us. Now, I'm going to do a little side trip for a second, because I know someone out there is going, but we can change the flow of the water. We can do it, because we can get a bulldozer and we can change the river's path. And it's kind of like how we try to force our circumstances to go the way we want them to go. Right? When we change the path of a river, bulldoze it, flood a different area, dam it, all of that stuff. But even though we can do these things, we can force and try to change the force of the river, try to change the path of the river, try to change the flow, try to control it. That's not always the best choice. Humans, we are always trying to force and control, but we don't have to do that. So this river and this changing the different path of the river, the current of the river, it can be sometimes the ups and downs, We want to allow the flow to take us where we're supposed to naturally go. And with the river symbolizing life, of course, sometimes the current is going to have those rapids or the waves. We could have some boulders that get in our way. We might have some unexpected side pathways with a little creek heading off from a river or something. We might have those peaceful, still moments of calm or peace, right? If we're unaware, we might get caught up in the whirlpools of worry and fear, just like life. It's just like the ups and downs of life. Sometimes life is easy, sometimes it's not. But Heather is saying, my husband is a heavy equipment operator. It explains a lot. I love that. That's awesome. So if we continue to stay aware and in the flow, We are allowing ourselves to be guided by the current, right? When we do that, we have a much better chance of getting to where we need to go. This means we have to let go of that belief that we know what's best for ourselves. That means we have to let go of our belief that we have to make something happen, that we have to control it or force it. We have to be willing to let those things go, right? We do. So what we're going to do, we are going to talk about this much better way to get there. Let's think about this for just one more second. If you try to force yourself upstream, right, against the current, you're going to be out of control. You're going to tumble backwards. You're going to smash against those boulders. You might get pummeled by the rapids. You might even, with unawareness, go over a waterfall. So if you intentionally choose to be in that spiritual flow, your life will change a million. So what we're going to do, I am going to give you 7 ideas to access and be one with the flow. And as I was writing down my thoughts, and I've been thinking about this for a while, because with COVID, I had some extra time on my hands, though I did have COVID brain and fog, so it was hard to focus. But I did write some things down, and I noticed as I was doing this that a lot of the words I used could go with the alphabet. So what we're going to do is the musical alphabet. And what that is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I used to tell my students all the time, they didn't need to worry about the other letters in the alphabet. They only needed to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we are going to use that just so to help you remember the words I'm going to use. What you want to do is with each of these ideas, you're going to choose to reset your energy by playing with these ideas. Maybe one grabs you today, another one grabs you a different day. When you play with these ideas, you reset your energy back into the flow. When we're in the flow, these ideas are present. We feel them. So if you want to be in the flow, play with these. Have some fun with it. Intentionally use them. So, of course, here we go. Letter A is for, who's going to guess? Yes, awareness. A is for awareness. As you float down a river, we'll use that for a second more. You want to be aware, right? You're in the current, paying attention to your surroundings in the present moment. You're paying attention to your surroundings in the present moment. You're going with the flow. You're not looking back at where you've been, worrying or obsessing over that. You're not ruminating over potential problems, what might happen. You're fully present in the moment. In your spiritual flow, being aware is essential. It's absolutely essential. We tend to go through life reacting to our problems, don't we? That's what we do. We feel like life happens to us sometimes, and we feel like we have no control over how we experience life. But with awareness, you can reclaim your power. In awareness, you'll recognize that you have the power to create your life rather than mindlessly reacting. You realize you don't have to get stuck in worries and fear. You don't have to. You become aware of using your problems as an opportunity for self and spiritual growth. You become more aware of your needs and you honor them. So awareness can apply to all sorts of different areas and aspects of your life. You become more aware of the energies around you. You're paying attention. In the spiritual flow, you'll start to notice the synchronicities. You think of someone, then they call you. You might have those intuitive moments where you know what's going to happen. Or someone says something, you're like, I was just thinking about that. You might notice and become aware of the divine guidance. Where maybe you're protected. For some reason, you're driving slower on a back road, and you think to yourself, why am I driving so slowly? And then a deer runs in front of you, and you think, well, thank you for helping me with that one. Or maybe you might even notice and become aware of spirit communication or communication from your guides or God even, or angels. You might start to notice those awarenesses. You'll become more aware of those subtle energies. You'll become more aware of the present moment. You won't be stuck in the past or the future. You won't be forcing or controlling. You're in the moment, and you may be aware of your oneness, how you are connected to everything. So to increase your awareness, and every one of these ideas I'm going to talk about, I'm going to suggest a way, something you can play with so that you understand how to do this. I can easily throw all these words at you, but I'm the how-to person, and I love to give you things to think about how to get to these points. So to increase your awareness, what you want to do is to start paying attention to how you mentally, emotionally, and physically feel. Make a point to be aware of yourself. We weren't trained to do that. We weren't trained to pay attention to ourselves. We go from one project to the next, one busy thing to the next. So make a point to see how you're really feeling. Become aware of your surroundings. That's a great way to increase your ability of being aware of things around you. You want to be aware of when you're in the zone, which is the spiritual flow. You know what that feels like when things are going well and you feel like everything's great. You're just right there. That's the spiritual flow. And we want to bring more of that into your life when life is great and easy. So you're going to notice and become aware of those subtle energies. Be aware in the present. And this means now awareness is really fundamental for pretty much anything, any growth. Spiritual growth, spiritual flow, very, very important. And I know it might, for some of you might say, but wait a minute, how is being aware of my surroundings going to help me with my spiritual flow, my spiritual growth? When you're aware of your surroundings, you're becoming more aware of energy. You're becoming more aware of yourself. You're becoming more aware of who you are at your soul level. Everything in your life is showing you something that you can become more aware of. You can become more aware of limiting beliefs. You might become more aware of habits, whatever it is, okay? So everything else I'm going to talk about kind of builds on this awareness. So in case you're joining me, I just want to tell you I'm Colleen Vanderzijden. I am a medium at Lilydale, as well as a certified intuitive life coach. And tonight on my show, Embracing Your Essence, we're always talking about a way to really get in touch with who you truly are at your soul level. And today we are talking about being in the spiritual flow and how to get there. So using the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we are going to come up with some words for you to help you remember. A is awareness, and B is going to be for balance. Obviously, floating on a river, you need to have some balance, right? So to be in the spiritual flow, we need life balance. What are you focusing on in your life? Many of us are too busy. We get too busy and we don't make space for the spiritual. We go from one project or situation to the next with no time for reflection or stillness. Okay. We might say that we're a tad imbalanced. Maybe we give too much weight to our problems and challenges. We repeat that story over and over and over again about this horrible thing that happened to us. And we can easily go on and on and on about it, focusing there. So we may be more focused on the negative, and we might be minimizing the positive. Our inner balance is off. Okay, now I could look back on January, right? And I could go, okay, my flights were delayed way back at the beginning of January. I got back late. Then I got COVID. Then I had to cancel all these things. Then this, then that. But instead, I'm like, this was a pretty interesting month. I had a good time. Even being sick and everything, it was fine. So we need to have balance. So what keeps you balanced? Bank account pops up. Heather says, yes, nice to have a good balance in our bank account, right? So what keeps you balanced? For many of us, we need that intentional stillness to spiritually connect. Maybe it's prayer, meditation, could be inspirational reading or writing. Nature is a big one for helping keep us balanced, maybe getting outside and walking. We might need quiet time. Hobbies can help us balance. We might need creativity when we're creating something, reorganizing our dining room, or we're painting or writing or whatever it might be. We might want music as a great creativity. Connection with other people. What keeps you balanced? We're individuals. Your needs are unique. Your needs are unique. Your growth is unique. There is no one-size-fits-all path to spiritual growth. Your path is the one that feels right to you. So you get to decide what is balance. Sometimes, and I hear these stories, sometimes from my clients, people will find a spiritual teacher, and the spiritual teacher will tell them, you have to do this and this and this and this and this. Now, suggestions, guidance, those things are very valuable. But if someone says you must meditate for 4 hours a day, or you will never be spiritual, that is a rule that is arbitrary and that is theirs and not necessarily yours. So you get to choose what is going to make you balanced. You get to choose what path fits you. So you want to become aware of the areas in your life where you might need to rebalance. So to access the flow and accelerate your growth, choose to balance your life and your perspectives. You're going to make a commitment to provide space as you need, as you want, for your own inspiration and divine guidance. You want to do what is right for you. How do you need to balance your lives? Okay? Because saying creative release is huge for me. It is, isn't it? Creativity is the soul speaking. And we all have some form of creativity, even those people out there who are saying, oh, I'm not creative at all. Because we think sometimes to be creative, you have to be a virtuoso musician or this amazing artist. But no, everyone has creativity in their own way. So that might be something to become aware of, right? Okay, so A, awareness. B, balance. C is going to be centered. We want to be centered. When we are in the spiritual flow, we are centered in who we truly are. We are souls connected to the divine energy. We're consciously centered in our souls. When we're centered in our souls, we're in the oneness of the divine, the universal energy, in the life energy. We're centered in the love and the light. To recenter and reconnect with that flow, what you want to do is breathe and check in with yourself. So it's a two-parter on this one. Breathe and check in with yourself. What are your needs? What feels right? How are you feeling? What are you thinking? This is a form of going within. Lots of times we talk about going within, and sometimes people will say, what does that mean? How do I go within? What does that mean? All that means is that you're checking in with yourself. You're giving yourself an opportunity to touch in with your soul to see what feels right to you. You'll have a better understanding of who you really are. So making the choice to go within and discover what's right for you. Remember, you're the individual. You have to do what's right for you. The breath is very important because this helps you rebalance and move into that stillness. We want to be in that stillness. Then you can more easily reconnect with your soul. Breathing, the breath is everybody knows this, right? Breathe and meditate, just breathe and be still. We've all heard these phrases, right? But the thing what I find is when we're on the path of spiritual growth, sometimes we need that direction. We're not sure exactly which way to go, and it's fun when I give you some suggestions you can play with or something like that. But what I'm finding is so many people don't do these things. We say, take a few minutes and breathe and be in the stillness. But we get wrapped up in life and we don't do it. And I am guilty of it as much as anybody else. Sometimes I'm really busy with a project and I kind of go, oh man, I forgot to meditate today. And, and it should be more of a priority for me. And I use should be in quotes in the way that so many of us use it. Okay. But I also understand that I meditate also in other ways as well. And maybe you too. So part of the reason I want to talk about this is that I want you to understand that it's a simple decision on your part to try something. Play with it, have fun with it. So you want to play with being aware, being balanced, and now being centered. Okay? The breath helps you with all of this. It'll slow you down. It's easier to go within when we're not ping-ponging in our heads back and forth from one problem to the next, right? Amazing. Okay, so now D, ABC, we're up to D. D is deliberate. We become deliberate in our choices. We become deliberate in our beliefs and our actions. What we're doing is we're living with intention. We're committed to our spiritual growth and development. So we decide we're going to be deliberate. When we do this, this is a big change for a lot of us because so many of us have felt, maybe now or in the past, that we don't have control, that we can't be deliberate, that we can't be intentional, that we don't have choices, or that we can't change our beliefs, or we can't act in a different way. And I'm here to tell you, you can. You can choose to be deliberate. You can let go of those limiting beliefs that block you from your joy. You can let go of disempowering habits that keep you stuck in fear or worry, whatever it might be. We choose to question everything. We question our beliefs. We question our habits. We question their truth. And then we have the choice. We can change our mind. We can use our power and deliberately change our mind. So rather than believing that life is too hard or that it will never get better, and I know we've been there, right? We deliberately choose to let go of that idea and we look in a new direction. We choose to stop ruminating and worrying and we look in a different direction. We stop living out of habit because so much of the time we are on autopilot, so we're going to stop that. So we choose to change our limiting, disempowering stories. We break the pattern of repeating anything that is keeping you stuck. You're being deliberate. So to be deliberate in your spiritual growth, be deliberate in your responses to life's challenges and circumstances. Be deliberate. Don't react out of habit or pattern. If you're unhappy with something, the question to ask yourself in terms of being deliberate is, what can you do to change it? What can you do to feel better? You might need to shift your self-perspective. You might need to protect your energy. You might need to speak your truth. Maybe you need to let go of those old stories that say you're not good enough or that you will never be worthy of living the life of your dreams. When you decide to be deliberate, everything you do becomes intentional. You think about what you're doing. And I don't mean to sit there and think before you make a decision. You're intentional in your decisions, your responses, your reactions, your behaviors, everything. You're intentional. When you do that, when you're deliberate, you will be in the spiritual flow. You will be. Isn't it amazing? I know. I don't know if it sounds too hard to do these things. It was fun when I was thinking about this because the ideas were just coming to me as they do, because Spirit always lets me know what I need to talk about. But if you focus on one thing, just one thing, that will help you get in the flow. And then you can play with another one another day. So here we are now. We are up to E. Okay, we have awareness, balance, centered, deliberate. Now we're at E. E is for emotionally nimble. Emotionally nimble. This is when we recognize our emotions can be all over the place. 1 second we're happy, 1 second we're sad. We have situations and we react to them emotionally. We do. When we're nimble, we choose not to get stuck in the difficult emotions. We keep moving on it. Now, this phrase, I can't say it, emotionally nimble, comes from my friend, Greg. And that message came to him when he was going through some tough stuff in his life. You know how it is when something happens that we get very upset about stuff. And then we step into that habit of repeating why we're upset, why we've been wronged. We obsess over the situations. We repetitively tell ourselves how we've been wronged, what people did to us, how hard our lives are, how unfair life can be, and we're whining and complaining. Okay, now we're stuck. This habit becomes a rut that can be really hard to dig our way out of. But being nimble, think about that word. What a great word, nimble, right? And when we use it with emotionally nimble, that means we're able to move through the emotions. We're able to more quickly process them. Did you know that if you are intentional and choose to feel the emotions rather than pushing them away as we so frequently do, but if you choose to feel them, it takes about 90 seconds to move through them. Only 90 seconds. That is nothing. That's if we choose to step into them. So many times we resist our emotions. We don't want to step into the negative, the sad, the scary, whatever it is. We don't want to step there. But if we just go, you know what, I'm feeling sad today. I'm going to step into it for a minute, see how I'm feeling about that. And we really go into it. What happens is we process it faster than we would if we pushed it away and we hid it or suppressed it. So what we want to do is consciously move into that. And when we do that, we become nimble with our emotions. We don't get stuck in that rut. So to get into your flow, what you want to do is accept your emotions rather than resisting them. We choose to step into them. You have the power. You get to do whatever you want. You choose to step into them, knowing that you don't have to get stuck there. You can be emotionally nimble. We need emotions to live a meaningful life. If we don't feel, if we're numb, if we're suppressing our emotions, maybe we're drowning them in alcohol or drugs or shopping or sleeping or whatever it is. If we're numb, we're not living in the joy that comes from living in our soul, that comes from living in that spiritual flow. So emotions are essential for being in the flow and for living as our spiritual soul level joyful beings. And I know it sounds funny that we have to, and a little interesting that we step into them, that we choose to do it. But I'm telling you, when you do it, you'll move through them so much faster. Be brave, be courageous, and just go for it. Okay, now the next one, F, is for flexibility, right? Because as humans, we deal with uncertainty or undesired situations by trying to control them. We want what we want when we want it, don't we? We all do. We get attached to certain desired outcomes. And then we try to force those conclusions. We try to make it happen. And that's when we struggle, feeling like we're swimming upstream against the current. That's when we try to drill through a boulder, rather than following the current and going around the boulder. If we're in the flow, we're flexible. We let go of the control, the rigid beliefs, the attachments, the specific outcomes. We don't force things. We're surrendering and allowing the flow to take us where we need to go. Now, this doesn't mean we don't have dreams and goals. And we want dreams and goals. We want things to be working toward. We want those things. They motivate us. They're fun. We want to create the life we want to create. So we want to have dreams and goals. But flexibility means that we want to stay open and we want to allow the flow to take us to the best opportunities. Maybe we're not even aware of them yet. As humans, we might think this is the best goal. We have this great idea. It's the most wonderful thing in the world. I wanted to create this forever, or I want to have this kind of relationship, or I want that kind of job. And then when we don't have those things, we get disappointed and we think, I can't get what I want. I can't get it. But what might happen is if we're in the flow, we stay open and a better opportunity comes to us because the universe and the divine energy knows more about what we need than we do in our humanness. Sometimes we hold on to things, we think about what we've lost, or we moan those blocked paths, or we're fixated on that specific goal. And if we get too focused on these things, the things we've lost or the blocks or that one goal, and we can't open to anything else, we might miss an awesome opportunity that's right in front of us. So to accelerate your spiritual growth, be flexible. If something isn't going the way you want it to, rather than getting stuck in the worry or the fear, you're going to be deliberate and choose to go with the flow and be flexible. What if your situation is leading you to something better than you can possibly imagine? How awesome would that be, right? And it can happen. I've seen it time and again with my clients, with my life, with friends' lives, and other people's lives. We have it. We can have the life we really want. And you can take action steps to get there just by changing your mind and looking at life from a different perspective. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So flexibility, let go of control and those specific outcomes. Now we are up to letter G, our final one. G is for guidance. We are guided. When we are in the current of the spiritual flow, don't you love that phrase, the current of the spiritual flow? You see the energy, you feel that energy moving when I say that. You know you're going to be guided to where you need to be. You trust the flow. So you know you're guided, you trust the flow. And when you trust the flow, that means you're trusting yourself because you are one with the spiritual flow. You are one with it. You trust the flow. You trust the life process. You trust yourself. You're trusting spirit. You're trusting the divine. When you trust, you don't have to control anything. You don't have to. You can get rid of all that stuff. You can just say, hey, I don't have to do this. I trust it's going to work. You still do your action steps to move forward as best you want to do. Allow yourself to be guided. You will be guided to your next action steps. You will expect to be guided. It's kind of like riding the waves, you know? You allow that current to help you move forward. You're working with the flow, not against it. Even if we have an idea where we want to go, which we should have, I'm going to stress that, we allow ourselves to be guided, trusting it's going to work just as it's supposed to. I know that can be hard to do. Okay. I've had situations in my life many a time. Usually it has to involve around like selling a house, not selling a house it's not happening in my timing, right? That's usually where I seem to notice I get stuck a lot. And I forget sometimes that it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. I need to trust the process and believe that the right person who's going to buy my house in Lilydale, I've got one for sale, is going to be guided to look at my house and go, this is the house for me. I feel the energy. So we want to trust it. So to be in the flow, you allow yourself to be guided. You pay attention to those little intuitive moments, the subtle energy that says, oh, go do this, try this out, think about this. You know, if you notice that you're complaining about something, or you're whining, those are big ones, complaining and whining, or you're struggling, moving forward, trying to force your way through because you were taught a million years ago that you must power through. Okay, step back, breathe, and choose to trust. You are guided. When you're in the flow, the spiritual flow, I almost said the spiritual glow. I kind of like that too, the spiritual glow. When you're in the flow, that was a good rap, you'll accelerate your growth. What happens is you end up stepping into your soul's power. And your soul, remember, is one with the divine. You will feel like life is in alignment. Now, this doesn't mean that magically everything is perfect in your life from here until the end of time. No, you're still going to have some life challenges because when you're on that river, in that current, things happen. Boulders pop up. You know, waves come and might knock you off your boat, whatever. Okay, so you're still going to have these things happening. But you'll notice that when you're in alignment here, when you're in that flow, you won't be stuck in the fear, the worry, stress. You'll know how to get in and out of it. You'll know that you do have the power to choose to step in to the flow. You can use one of the ideas I've talked about tonight, and you'll be living from that soul's perspective. You'll be living with more meaning, more joy. You can intentionally play with these ideas. Sometimes, again, people think that if we're on a spiritual path, life is going to be magically easier. And in some ways it is. It truly is. And in other ways, there have been experiences where it seems like things are a little bit more challenging because I've asked Spirit, the universe, to help me accelerate my growth. And when I do that, Spirit says, okay, I'm going to give you this situation, circumstance, problem, challenge, so you can practice stepping back into your soul's power. At this point in time in our human physical life, we have one of the fastest ways we can grow is by using our life situations, circumstances, and problems as an avenue or a vehicle for self-growth, for spiritual growth. Okay, there may come a time in the future where we don't have to experience challenges and problems in order to grow. But right now, so many of us do have those. This does not mean that it has to always be that way. But we can take those problems and use them to our advantage to accelerate our personal growth as much as possible. So, as you're living your life, that sounds so grandiose in a way, as you're living your life, if you start to notice that you're feeling stuck, if you start to notice that things aren't going the way you want them to, decide to use one of my ideas from tonight, from our musical alphabet letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then you can continue on and change things. When my book comes out, it's not like this. Like, I don't have this level of stuff in there, but there's 32 magical mind games in my book that will help you reclaim your power so you can get back to your joy and get out of being stuck. Okay, so in a way, what I'm talking about tonight is the spiritual level of what is in my book, and I do talk about the soul in my book as well, of course. But this is so important right now because we are in this consciousness shift. It's magical in a sense because we have access to that energy that is going to help us on our spiritual growth, spiritual path, spiritual development, whatever we want to do with ourselves. That's going to help us step into our power so we can be authentically our soul, living at our soul level, and use the energy of this consciousness shift. Make a decision, choose to go there, and you could be amazed at what your life would be. The energies when you step into that flow are stunning, just stunning. I wish I could buy your house. I bought a house in Niagara Falls. Yay. Yeah, I have a cute little house in Lilydale. I have 2 houses in Lilydale, so I'm trying to sell my little house. So if anybody's looking for a little cottage, there it is. There's some really nice houses for sale in Lilydale too. So if you have not, I'll plug this for a minute. If you have not signed up for Lilydale's mailing list, get on that. You can see everything that's going on. So go to lilydaleassembly.org. You can find out everything that's happening. And it's amazing. And we do have all these online classes that are off season happening. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to summarize my 7, I just added a note to the musical alphabet, 7 ideas that can help you. You can consciously choose to step into them. Number 1, A is for awareness. Be aware. B is for balance. Do whatever you have to do to maintain your balance. C is for centered. Go within. Touch in with your soul. Check in. D is deliberate. Be deliberate and intentional in what you do, what you believe, how you act, how you feel. For some reason, that feels really important to me this week. That may be the one that many of you want to try first. E is emotionally nimble. Get in your emotions, allow yourself to feel them and process them, and then get out. You'll be much more nimble because you're not resisting them. Be flexible. Don't get stuck wanting one thing and only one thing. Don't get stuck believing something that's not right. Go with the flow. And then, of course, being guided. You are guided for letter G. When you're guided, you're trusting. So amazing. Okay. And that is everything. I'm just checking to make sure I haven't left something out. And that is everything I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I hope you have found this helpful for you on your spiritual path. At this time, it's, for some reason, I just have to say this one more time. At this time with the consciousness shift, it is so, so, so important that those of us who are interested in being light workers, those of us who are interested in being of service, being that spiritual being that we really are, it is so important for us to step into that, own it, and embrace it, because our light and love is spreading out from us. We are rippling out and affecting other people. There are a lot of people struggling right now who have no intention or desire ever to be on a spiritual path, and that is fine. That is their life. So we have a responsibility, in a sense, to develop ourselves and embrace that spiritual side, so that not only are we helping ourselves return to our soul, but also so that we can be a light and help guide other people on their path. There are so many struggling now, and you have the opportunity to be that person to uplift someone else and brighten their day and reflect back to them who they truly are, that they truly also are wonderful people who have that power to be loving, to be light, and they can get their power back too, just by your presence alone. So a little side journey for me for that few minutes right there. For some reason, I felt that was very important to say. Spirit always guides me, so I'll trust that. So I want to thank you all for being here. You filled 2.5 pages of notes. I love when people take notes. You know, my radio shows have turned into mini workshops, free workshops for you. Win-win. Okay, you guys have the most amazing week, and I will talk to you next week. And thank you so much for joining me today. And check out my website, ColleenVanderzijden.com, and lilydaleassembly.org. And you can find out everything that's going on in Lilydale and in my life as well, basically. And as soon as my book is out, I will let you know. Believe me. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye.